We are getting word that we have Chuck Bailey on the phone. He's a professor of geology on the phone from William & Mary. Chuck, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Hey, Chuck, what can you tell us about this? What do folks need to be worried about now that the earthquake is over?
Well, I would say that at this point the worst is probably past. There will likely be aftershocks, but most of these would be small enough that humans aren't really going to sense them.
What can you tell us about the aftershocks for those that aren't sure what that is and what they're going to feel?
Okay, in essence, an aftershock is typically an earthquake. They're most likely to be smaller and significantly smaller than the event that we all felt earlier today. So again, these are small earthquakes, and they occur as, in essence, the Earth's crust adjusts to the changes, sort of the shift in the rock bodies that happened during the major earthquake.
Chuck, so many people here in Virginia have never felt anything like this, although there are a lot of people here who have because they've lived in other parts of the country. You're talking about aftershocks at this point. Are we in danger of something like this, even this strong, happening again, even maybe today?
No. I mean, you know, and if I'm wrong about this, people are going to let me know. But, you know, this was a magnitude 5.8, maybe 5.9 quake. That is 20 to 30 times larger than we've ever had a fault that has sort of ruptured and produced an earthquake in Virginia. And I would suspect that we are going to have, you know, a few aftershocks, but they are going to be very small, and in essence, sort of the worst is past.
What does an aftershock feel like for those of us who've never felt one?
It feels a lot like what the earthquake felt like, but again, it'll typically be shorter. Sometimes they may be scarier because you know sort of what just happened.
Well, this is one for the record books, we were told, because we were doing some research earlier. Art Kahn had some information in the newsroom, one of our reporters, about an earthquake that occurred in Giles County, Virginia in the 1800s. It was 5.8 on the Richter scale. The U.S. Geological Survey says 5.9. Is this then a record?
Well, I think that we could say it's a record. The Giles County earthquake from the 19th century occurred before we had seismometers. So we didn't have instruments in the ground to really accurately measure how large it was. So the estimate from that earthquake was based on the damage that was done, sort of the reporting by humans who felt it. In this one, we have sort of modern instrumentation, and you know, by all accounts, it is you know, very, very much a large earthquake for the East Coast.
What kind of damage would be done in a 5.9 quake? Just basically, just a generality.
A 5.9 quake typically is going to lead to shaking that may go on for 20, 25, 30 seconds. And, you know, you may have damage to masonry structures, foundations, bricks could fall out if the mortar's not holding them together very well. This is not the kind of earthquake that's necessarily going to topple buildings, but again,
that's good to know.
You could imagine breaking masonry structures or walls like that.
Chuck, what would cause something like this? I mean, here in Virginia, with never ever having anything like this in 100 years, a lot of people are wondering, what is there some type of shift in the atmosphere? What would cause something like this?
Well, that's a good question. I can give you sort of the simple answer that, you know, earthquakes occur when the stress at a particular point in the Earth's crust gets so high that the rocks crack, they fracture, they slip. So something happened today in central Virginia to create enough stress in the Earth's crust to cause them to slip.
And Jeremy Wheeler and I were talking, our meteorologist, about just the large section of land this affected, from Canada to the north to South Carolina in the south and way out west, even though it was only a 5.9. How does that occur?
Well, I think there are a few ways to look at it. By and large, the rocks in eastern North America are old rocks, and they've been around for quite a while. And they're in some ways a little cooler. They're not as hot at depth as rocks are, say, in the western United States. And that actually allows seismic waves to travel more rapidly through them and not attenuate or die out quite as well. So one of the things that I think definitely happened from this earthquake is that along the trace of eastern North America, it was pretty widely felt, you know, from Boston south to, you know, Georgia and Florida. That's not at all a surprise, given the fact that these rocks are sort of old and relatively cold.
Chuck, don't go anywhere, because we're going to want to talk to you a little bit later.